Minister, the formation of this government, I remember the programme for government said specifically the government wanted to do consultation in a new way, proper consultation, not just a tick box exercise. Where we really listen with respect to the views before the public service makes a policy decision. Do you think it's appropriate in that regard that your department issued for consultation both in regard to the wildlife burning of vegetation regulations but also the strategic plan for the Skellig Islands, that the public consultation was announced and issued late on Friday the 21st of December, the last Friday before Christmas? Do you think that was an appropriate approach to public consultation given what is set out as the intention in this government's own programme for government and how you do public consultation properly?
As you're aware, Section 7.1 of the Heritage Act provides that I, as a Minister, may make regulations to allow the burning of vegetation during such periods in the month of March and in such parts of the country as specified in the regulations. And in order for me to be in a position to make a decision on whether to allow burning in certain areas this March, my department initiated a public consultation process on the draft regulations and guidelines on the 21st of December last. And there are 2 documents which are published: draft regulations to permit controlled burning only in March and only in certain parts of the country and only due to adverse weather conditions, such as where the winter rainfall is higher than average. And the second document is draft best practice guidelines for burning management and cover issues such as the requirements for consent on any Natura sites, advice on rotational burning, the prohibition of burning on blanket bog habitat, and guidance on how to carry out controlled burning to benefit certain ground nesting birds such as the hen harrier, the red grouse, the curlew and the golden plover. And while I will be of the view that publishing these documents over the holiday period gave people the time and space to reflect on the proposals, I appreciate the concerns that have been expressed by a number of organisations, Deputy, and individuals at the closing date for the receipt of submissions on the 16th of January. And in making the decision on the standard 28-day consultation period, my department had allowed the latitude to automatically extend that period if the stakeholder interests so demanded. And my department decided, therefore, to exercise that automatic extension on Monday the 7th last, and therefore the consultation period that you refer to for this process is now open up to the 31st of January. The Deputy may not have been aware of this prior to tabling the question, but I believe that this deadline will allow all interested parties to be in a position to consider the documents and make submissions if they so wish. Thank you.
Supplementary. I still retain my concern about the opening date for the consultation. Late on Friday, the 21st of December, is not designed to encourage maximum participation, and that is a real problem, and I think gives a sign as to what the Minister and the Department's real intent is. Secondly, and furthermore, in the consultation on the wildlife burning, the consultation refers to a period XXX to YYY, which we're asked to comment on without knowing what those dates are. And similarly, it says that it relates to burning that would take parts of the state set out in Schedule 1 and also sets out to take into account the best practice guidelines set out in Schedule 2 of these regulations. But neither of those schedules are provided. So people have been asked to consult on a document where your department has not provided the necessary schedule which would allow them to actually consult properly. In the timing of this, in the nature of the consultation, which doesn't include the schedules or the timelines that the regulations relate to, it sends out a signal that you're not serious about this consultation, you're doing a tick box exercise, you've made up your mind, consultation is not real.
That you doubt our bona fides in relation to this public consultation, bearing in mind the fact that we have extended it to allow for further public consultation, allow people to make submissions on such a necessary topic. And it's a complex issue which the Department needed to research, and the drafting of the best practice guidelines for burning took longer than anticipated due to the various issues that needed to be covered in the guidelines. It wasn't a question of waiting until the 21st, more it was a question of not being ready until then. And we offered a 28 consultation period, as I said, and that's at the higher end of the standard consultation periods. And we allow for automatic extension if it was needed, and it was needed. And we did this last Monday. And it's now a 6-week consultation period. And there was no statutory obligation on me to consult at all. So I'm actually being criticised for acting in good faith here. But the extension of the deadline to the 31st of January to respond gives interested parties, in my view, a reasonable opportunity to consider. And I also did this without being asked to by the Oireachtas.
Final question. In doing the consultation, Minister, why did you not include Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 of the regulations, which people are being asked to comment on? Why are they not included in the consultation documents to allow people to give a proper consultation?
In response from the Minister.
The regulations, as we know, there are a number of issues which are covered in the regulations and best practice guidelines, which are both now out for public consultation. And these regulations will permit controlled burning only, and only due to adverse weather conditions, such as where the winter rainfall is higher than average. And the draft guidelines refer to the requirements for consent on any Natura sites and refer also to other relevant legislation on the burning of lands. And advice is provided on rotational burning, as uncontrolled and unplanned burning, as we know, can result in a monoculture of more dominant vegetation types over land areas. And the guidelines also state that burning should not be carried out in a blanket bog habitat in any circumstances, and in humid mires or in wet heaths, as this can lead to damage to the moss layer or to the peat itself. And the guidelines also emphasise that species and habitat considerations should also be to the fore before embarking on a planned burn, and the objective should always be to return to the habitat to its pre-burn condition in a reasonable time frame.